Okay, hopefully you will see a recording pop up saying that we're recording it. Okay.
Mine says it's recording.
Okay. So welcome to the January 27th Database Committee meeting. We will, like I mentioned, go ahead and push forward. Let's take a look at our agenda. So as always, the agenda is at rsanfp.org. And then on the left, we have RSA board committees, groups, database committee on the left. And then I did make a tweak to the agenda this morning. Tony, our member services user experience coordinator, is joining us, so I added him. But other than that, this is the agenda that was shared on the listserv Tuesday. So if you'd like, if you could type in the text chat your name and your library, and if you cataloged anything unique since our last meeting in September. I know earlier this week for me, Jenny Jackson at the Marquette Heights Public Library, she is cataloging a geocache item, so I helped her with that. Lisa, Rhonda, Jennifer, anything especially noteworthy? I know lots of puzzles.
I have Connect 4 sitting at my house.
Don't play it.
No,
say fun.
No, I have that, and then I don't know what's in it yet, but Morton's been sending in kits, and I have this massive tub of things. So I don't know. It's a mystery, but it looks interesting.
You don't know what you'll find in there. Okay, good. I see several introductions. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move to agenda item number 2. I will hand over the mic to Nancy George, the Rails Cataloging Services Coordinator, and she will share with you what's new with Rails, particularly the World Language Cataloging Services Program. So Nancy, hopefully you can take it away if I have this set up correctly.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I think hold on a second. Is it the full screen you're seeing?
Yes.
All right, great. Hello, everyone. I hope you all can hear me fine. Okay, great. So my name is Nancy George. I am Rails Cataloging Services Coordinator. First of all, I wanted to thank you, RSA, for giving me this opportunity. It's been just less than a year ago that I was in one of your meetings, and I was speaking about Rails is working on specialized cataloging support for our members. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Rails World Language Cataloging Services Program is officially up and running. So if you are looking for help cataloging materials in world languages, there are actually 2 statewide programs that can help you. The Cataloging Maintenance Center, CMC, is available to catalog special collections. Pam would be able to provide you more information about this program. And Rails program is called World Language Cataloging Services Program. Today, I'm glad to talk to you about this program in detail, the procedure, how you can request this service. So what languages, what collections, and what formats this service cover. So both of this program will support and expand resource sharing by providing access to a variety of unique materials. This will be an ongoing cataloging support from us. And both of this program are funded by the state library. So our mission is to provide free cataloging service to all Illinois library system members. So what is World Language Cataloging Services Program? It's a statewide cataloging support program for Illinois library system members, and it provides a supplementary cataloging, particularly when original cataloging or word language cataloging is needed for system members as an outsourcing option. I also wanted to make sure you understand that this program is intended to supplement and not to replace RSA centralized cataloging services. So that means you can request Rails service if RSA cataloging is not able to find records for your items. So for you, the first choice is always RSA cataloging service. So who can participate in this service? Both Rails and Illinois Heartland library system members are eligible to participate. As I mentioned earlier, it's a statewide cataloging support program. There is no cost to our members. What languages this service cover? So Rails service covers all languages that are considered part of your library's collection, regular collection, as opposed being a special collection. These materials should not be in your rare books or special collection department. So each library make that determination. If your titles are not designated as special collections, you can use a Rails service. As I mentioned earlier, Cataloging Maintenance Center, CMC, is available to catalog special collections. I hope it's clear. The eligible formats of this service include most of the physical materials, like print books, audiobooks, kits, magazines, sound recordings, music or non-music, cartographic materials, printed music, video games, video recordings, and non-published materials like manuscripts. Not eligible formats are ebooks, electronic audiobooks, streaming media, and locally created e-resources, local resources and genealogy, braille materials, digital collections, etc. So those locally created materials, you would be definitely able to get help from CMC. So how can you request this service? Libraries can send us physical items, photocopies, or PDF files of the items to be cataloged. We understand that some of the materials may not be able to leave your library, so we can catalog from surrogates. That means photocopies, scans, or images rather than shipping the original items. So if the libraries will be sending surrogates, they should follow the guidelines when preparing the items for your cataloging, because these surrogate specifications, you can find it on our site. I can show you that where it is later at the end of the presentation. So the first procedure, when a member library sends materials to Rails, you have to use an online cataloging request form to submit each cataloging service request. This online form indicates items cataloging specifications. Once you submit this form, you will receive an email. You have to enclose a printout of that email with the items to be cataloged. Then you can send those materials to Rails Burridge location. If you're using the surrogate methods, you don't have to send the original items, but just send me an email, so that will help me to get a heads up. So you have to use L2 credentials and log into Rails website when you submit this form. When we receive these materials, we will make sure that the enclosed printouts matches with the materials. You send it to us, and then we will start cataloging process. Before pursuing original cataloging for the materials, we will first search OCLC connection for copy cataloging. If we found a record, we will enhance the record and then we'll make it into a full level bibliographic. If there is no existing MARC record found, we will create an original bibliographic record and will supply full level bibliographic record. If I am not an expert in language or format, we will outsource the cataloging. So our outsourcing vendor is Backstage Library OS. Library can request different classification schemes, specifically LC or Dewey, depending upon your institution's use. Also, we will provide Library of Congress, MESH, BISAC, and Sears subject headings. There are some guidelines you have to follow when you request this service. So all materials must be properly stamped with your institution stamp. Otherwise, we cannot identify materials from different libraries. So it's very important. And there will be a limit of 3 to 5 items per library in a month to be cataloged. And also, do not send more items until the previous items have been returned. We can also work with members case by case if you have a backlog of materials. And we do not do any physical processing of materials, for example, printing or affixing labels. We will not load the bibliographic record for the item into your local ILS. And we will not create items or holding records for individual copies, but we will provide full level bibliographic record for each item you send it to us. Regarding the turnaround time, it varies depending upon the scope of the collection and other factors. We hope most of the items will be returned within 4 to 6 weeks. That is what we learned from our pilot project. When we return the cataloging items, we will insert a printout of the bibliographic record into the physical item. And so you will have OCLC number for your reference. When using surrogate methods, I will email you the bibliographic records and other details of the items. And also, the libraries can access the record via OCLC if you have a connection or WordShare account. You can find all these guidelines and procedures here in this website. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have, or you can reach out to me individually anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions. And here is my email. Any questions?
Thank you, Nancy. That was a really informative presentation. It sounds like you've got your bases covered with good, clear criteria. That's important. I'm glad that you have that.
I can stop sharing and I can share cataloging request form in case if you guys have that question, if you have any questions.
I'd love to have your slides too, Nancy, after the meeting.
Sure.
I can include them in the meeting slides with the rest of the content.
So here is our site, and you will see all the guidelines and procedures here. So the cataloging request form is here. So you have to sign in with your L2 credential, so you can see the form. So here is the form. You can submit, fill all these things and just submit. So if I'm creating, sending a physical items, just create an owning library is your library, and it's showing my name because I'm the one, but when you logged in, it will be showing yours. And all these details, email, phone number, and return to building is your library's address and your library code, and also your address you have to put it here. And you have to mention what are the cataloging specifications you need here. Also, I would prefer to have a image of the title page when you send, even though you are sending the physical items, that will help me to identify the materials. So that you just submit, and when you submit, you will receive an email, and I will receive a ticket, so I know that somebody requested this service. You have to insert that email into your item you are sending to me. Any questions about, if you're sending the surrogates, here is the procedure for preparing surrogates. What do you need to put it on those images? Any questions?
Actually, for me, I am curious. I see you have the choice original cataloging and then enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is something out there in connection and what, it's just a not good record, I guess, what, is there a certain determination you have for that? I mean, just so if you just want an enhancement to the record found, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, if you have a specific note about the item, if you can, some libraries, when I was doing the pilot project, some libraries specifically saying they need 520 note. That is a must for them. So you have to explain all those notes in the note about the item, what kind of specifications you need.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nancy. Again, like I said, good overview. I'm glad that you've got good, clear criteria. And then hopefully, if any of our members get something foreign language cataloging and we can't we can't figure it out, we will definitely refer you to Nancy. So we will keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again, Nancy, and I'll keep an eye out for your slides so we can make sure to put those as part of the archive meeting materials. Okay, well, let me share my screen. Next up, we have Dr. Pamela Thomas from the Cataloging Maintenance Center. She will give us an update what the CMC has been up to. So take it away, Pam.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and I can see you.
Am I loud enough?
I've been monkeying with my volume, so
I know.
I'm probably not the best judge of that.
Okay. Well, if you can't, then put it in the chat and say, no, I can't hear you. So we are currently looking for a metadata cataloger. So if anybody's unhappy with their job, please apply. You would have to work out of one of our hubs, so that probably means you would need to move, but you would have your choice of Champaign, Edwardsville, or Carbondale. I'll put the job link in the chat. Since the September meeting, we've done several online with the CMCs. In October, we did Getting Real, Cataloging Realia. Should have actually put those in order. We'll just go in the order I have things. Because I totally stole this from my state report that I have to do quarterly. We've done routine cataloging. We did some Arabic books. We did 7 of those, but we did 254 items that were originally cataloged, and we enhanced 154 records. We also reviewed 129 items. The Alma Cleanup Project began September 21st. And during September through December 31st, the CMC staff deleted almost, well, 2.5 million records and edited 620 records. The ALMA project is for Carly. We're supposed to be deleting millions of records, so making some good progress there. Some of the CMC staff presented at the Illinois Library Association annual conference, Little Library, Big Dreams, elevating a local project to a global platform. And we had 73 attendees if you need some stats. Also during this quarter, we created 28 original name authority records and 3 original local series. We offered RDA book training via Moodle, and 10 people successfully completed that course. We, as in me, offered RDA for video and audio recordings via Moodle as well, and I had 8 students successfully complete that course. We continue working on the Marshall Public Library Digital Archive project. We continue cataloging Braille books for Mattoon Public Library. We're almost done with that. We had 2 staff getting NACO training. We're going to have 3 more starting next week because the CMC has to create 100 name authority records each year. So it will be nice to have more than one person doing that. We continue working on a Prairie Cat cleanup. We had 916 bib records that we processed. 112 merges were identified for a total of 1,028 records that were exported or supplied. Our November online with the CMC was Where's Waldo cataloging maps. And then the December online with the CMC was Noteworthy Notes at Your Service. Some of the CMC staff are trained in merging OCLC records. So we merged 116 records during this quarter. We also did a presentation for our IHLS Member Day called Well You See Timmy during the lunch mini sessions. We currently have 2 University of North Carolina interns for the spring semester. And we had a new cataloger, Barb Scobie, who began working for us in December. So we have a lot of new staff. So if things aren't maybe always done the way they should be, just let us know. And we are doing our best in getting everybody trained. And I'm putting in the chat the URL for that metadata cataloger position. Just trying to dazzle somebody away, that's all. Hopefully we'll be doing interviews early February. Okay, any questions? No?
Thank you, Pam. It sounds
Sure.
like you've been insanely busy. Both
Yeah,
you
I
and
think we always are.
Sounds like you've been pretty busy. Tell us the names of the other relatively new CMC
Well, they're all new.
catalogers. Oh, they're all new. Okay.
I mean,
We have Barb
so,
and then
so Barb, yeah, Barb started in December. Eric McKinney and Mary Cornell started in October, and then the 3 temporary but full-time employees for the Carly project are Blake Walder, Bonnie Dower, and Hanan Jabber.
okay.
So right now they're only contracted to work for us through the end of June, but I need to reach out to Carly and see what's
Maybe
going
there's
on with that.
some wiggle room
Well,
here.
I don't think we're going to be deleting all of the items they want us to delete by June 30th. So, and if those 3 can't get it all done, then I'm pretty sure the rest of the CMC staff will then be responsible, and I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Maybe we can all work 12-hour days. I don't know. No,
Sure.
we'll figure
No,
it out. Sure.
I often think you need more time in the day. Many times I think
I just
that.
want more staff, but you know, the state library
Yeah.
has to give me money for that, and that's probably just not going to happen. So we're just doing our best, and we're still working remotely through the end of next week, and then everybody should be back in the office we do work 2 days remotely as our normal routine. And that's also to dazzle anybody else over to our side. So I know.
That's
Pushing
good
too
to know
hard.
what Illinois Heartland's plan is with Rails, we're still working remotely.
I know. Just
So
jealous.
we've been told to use good judgment if you go into the office. So that's good to know that Heartland has been doing the 3 at the office, 2 at home. That's pretty much your normal
Yeah, it is.
schedule. Yeah.
Yep.
Did anyone have any questions for Pam or Nancy? Now that you've had a few minutes to think about what Nancy said too.
Radio
Okay.
silence. All
Well,
right.
we will
Thanks,
we
guys.
will push forward. Thank you, Pam. Okay, so next up, this is the agenda tweak I made. We'll hear from Tony Hahn, the RSA Member Services User Experience Coordinator, about the RSA support site revamp. So take it away, Tony.
Okay, I'm going to begin sharing my screen. So just let me know if you can't hear me well, or if you, oh, just one moment while I actually decide which window to share. Is that coming through?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I've done a lot of small tweaks, and some of them are a little bit larger than others to the site. But before I introduce the new support site in its current state, I just want to share a little bit about how making really like leaps and bounds with like the site is in a good structural place, in that it's like very easy to update, easy to manage. But because we are, as an organization, RSA is reorganizing its documentation internally, including grouping all of our files, our like files together. So for example, everything about a discard user would be located under, like the policy would be in the same folder as the procedures and guidelines. And a lot of that is something, it's a large undertaking, and it's kind of delaying the population of the site, if you will, like with content. However, there's a lot to look at today, so I'm going to start sharing that. Catch my breath here for a second and dig right in. So what you're looking at right when you get to this site is the homepage, and the navigation at the top, includes a lot of the same information that's on the current RSA site. It's just a little more convenient, a little more white space all around it. So for example, one of the reasons you might come to the site is to do a cataloging request. That's one of the first things under new requests up here. And let's see, I'd like to go over the menu, which is on the top of every page, and the footer, as well as the homepage first. So, and then I'll show you a couple little samples of various pages. So yeah, so the menu has various requests that you could make. We have a section just for the system handbooks. Not all of them are populated yet, but we did get some great feedback about new to RSA and what we should place into that handbook. And then we have this area called by topic, and it's going to be a kind of place where you can access all of the documents directly based on the topic. So these are going to be kind of 2 ways of sorting through that. And I'll show you what I mean by that when we go through the page demos. I'm seeing there's some weird bug where I'm highlighting this, but this is basically Blue Cloud Analytics login and monthly report downloads. And then I'm having an issue actually highlighting this because I haven't tested it on this monitor or something like that, but something weird is going on. I have events and I have the about section. Probably just a page refresh will fix it. Okay, so moving on to the footer, I wanted to share basically that the website committee has been kind of reviewing the progress on the site, and they've already seen some of this. So they're only really small tweaks from what they have seen. And the RSA staff has also had a chance to weigh in and give some feedback. But basically in the footer, you're getting some, biographical information about the organization. Again, even though it's at the top, I know a lot of people are used to having it on hand at the bottom, and they might not even think to look at the top. So all of that's also included at the bottom, as well as the after hours support number, things like that. So right here it says, if you would like to learn a tour of the website, you can scroll down. Right off the bat, you see these are similar links to what we have on our current website. I haven't really, it's kind of the quick link section without being labeled a quick link section. I'm trying to do less, use less words where possible. And then here, there's some expanding areas. So if you wanted to learn, but you wanted to learn with the video, you can click on this and then you can see, oh, there's a YouTube page for RSA. You might not have known that. And this tells you how to locate it, how to get to our YouTube page. It tells you about the trainings that's offered and how to access those, as well as the documentation. So I haven't really filled out all of these yet, but this is kind of a quick orientation section to get you going. And let's see. So an example of one of the pages, an internal page of the site, is this cataloging request page. Oh yeah, this is working now, good. And the cataloging request, basically the idea here is any page that's a cataloging page will have a list of related cataloging links to get you to where you need to go. If maybe you're cataloging an audiobook, but you also wanted to look up a rule or you wanted to look up a code that you didn't have, you could just click on parameters and go to that section of the site and then have, the item types that you need right there. At least that's the plan for right now. I'm realizing right now there's no like other related links right here, which could be useful. But that's just something I can build out semi-easily. Let's see. So that's a request page. These other ones just link directly to the forms. I'm going to show you a circulation handbook, which is really just kind of like a big page with lots of information. At least that's the current design, with a table of contents of all the information on this page right here. So if I wanted to go and learn about holds and holds documentation within the circulation handbook, I can just click on this holds and it'll jump me down to holds documentation. And so that's the idea behind these handbooks. Again, the actual structure and content is likely to change, and that's why I've only populated it with what's on the current RSA website. And I'm also planning on creating a link that will send you back to the top so that you can get back to this menu over here. Let's see, these by topic pages, I think the most impressive one is the one that's by all topics, because this one can sort out, like if you need something about workflows, it can sort out all the pages about it really quickly and just give you a quick at a glance picture for what we call parameters like billing or circulation. You can just look at those. You could look at all the things related to circulation. Again, some of these may or may not actually make it to the final site because of our internal documents changing around. But this is the idea, is this is kind of almost like a hub for documents. I'm kind of labeling it as such here, but and then each of these pages, we kind of had a preview of it when I clicked on cataloging parameters earlier, but yeah, each of these pages is just a small little group of other documents that you can click on that will link to those exact things that you need. So right now, these two sections are kind of unfinished. I don't really they're just more internal pages, but this is where a lot of our internal governance happens in the about section. And this is where in the events area is where you would look at and find meetings. You would find committee meetings and such like that. Let's see if I could, I'm going to use an example really quick of, because I know I'm coming up on 10 minutes. I want to kind of keep this a little bit short, but The intent for this page was to design it, or for this whole site was to design it like accessible so that you could, like hit tab to like cycle through all the active links on a page. And besides that search, when you're going backwards, it will highlight, let's see if I can give a better example. Yeah. So it will highlight what you're tabbing over. So it's keyboard navigating, and it is kind of accessible, which is kind of a requirement going forward for a lot of public sites. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight just in terms of accessibility is this is a browser extension that shows the headings. This is almost like a nerdy HTML thing, but the actual headings are logically aligned within this page so that, when you're looking at heading 1 is only the page title, it shows you a circulation handbook. And all the subheadings underneath that are heading 2. And then if there's a heading even below that, that would be heading 3. So like if we start talking about ILL, this down here is a heading 3 because it's a subsection of ILL. Again, it's just another way that makes it easily navigated. And it also helps make this little thing function over here so that categories that are subcategories are easily mapped out within that table of contents for this page. That's pretty much what I have to share for today. Are there any questions? I know we only have like a minute, but or I might have gone over half a minute, but
That's okay. No, this is exciting. I'm excited that it's much more organized and cleaner, for lack of a better term. So this was a good view into what you've been busy doing. What is the next step, Tony? Are you going to talk about the new support site at the users group, or what should we stay tuned for?
sure. So I don't have a big portion of users group, a big portion dedicated to the support site for users group. The next committee meeting is coming up on February 22nd, which is all about like the website committee. And what we've been focusing on mainly is trying to make sure that this site works for audiences, like parts of RSA that we don't usually hear from, because we've got some great feedback from our main usership, but we don't really, we want to include a system handbook for all of the other, I don't know, less, I guess, call them like less represented voices, like school libraries and such, that we don't hear from. So that's really one of the next steps. I'm going to be changing a few things with the structure of the menus, just in terms of how things are looking. But I think really in terms of the project timeline, it'll probably be a little bit of a burden on like my department, the member services group, but we have to like look at all of the internal documents, see what we can and can't group together and reorganize it. So I'm probably going to be doing that a lot, which isn't actually working on the site, but it's working on a project that the site depends on. So
That's an important part of the process, because as you know, the documents are quite messy sometimes on our end. So that is an important part. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Like I said, this was helpful because we know you've been working on it, but seeing the progress come along is always encouraging.
for sure, I'll stop my share.
Okay, well,
Happy to share with everybody.
does your committee, is it an open or a closed committee if
It's
somebody
an
wants?
open. Mhm.
Okay.
And I do a website update just like that, like kind of at the start. So it'll be a lot shorter than that because I was introducing it, brand new for the first time just now to everybody. So if you just want to come for the website update, that's also an option. Just stay for the first 10, 15 minutes or so.
Good to know. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll look
Okay.
at survey results and such. And usually I'll bring a few topics.
You did get some good, Tony got some good feedback on the survey that you, our members, did. So I know that that's going to be an important piece of the equation. So yeah, helpful feedback always is a good thing when we're trying to make this for you, our membership, rather than just something that makes sense to us, which I feel like happened with the current site. Yeah, okay, well, we will push forward. The next thing on our agenda, I wanted to talk about the election of a database committee chair or co-chair. So let me see if I can share my screen again. I have not gotten any volunteers, so I thought I would ask during this meeting, since those of you in this meeting, you're our steadfast volunteers who are always here. Okay, let me see here. Okay, are you seeing the agenda, hopefully? Okay, so just to review what the committee chair or co-chairs do, they share agenda items with RSA a couple weeks before the meeting. They attend these meetings, the full meetings, as well as the in-between database committee meetings live. And that can be done either remotely or in person when the latter is safe to do again. The full meetings we typically do in January, May, and September, and then in between meetings are just as necessary. During the meeting, you announce the agenda items and you contribute to any discussion. You attend users group meetings live, either remotely or in person. Again, when in person is safe. These meetings for users group are scheduled in February, May, August, and November. And you're really only there in case there's any questions about the database committee meeting notes that are in the user group packet. You don't have to deliver a verbal report, and we take care of writing the notes. If there's a policy, cataloging policies that need to be presented to the users group for approval, you help with the discussion of those. And then you just keep us informed if you're not able to attend a database or a users group meeting, so we can make sure that we know to move ahead without you. The term is a one-year term. It would start this month going through next January, and there's no term limit. If you've done it before, you can do it again. Any interest? It is a relatively painless position. So I'm hoping maybe one or two of you might be willing to do it. Let me open up the chat here. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Jennifer Williams at the Normal Public Library. That would be great. Does anybody want to join Jennifer? Going once, going twice. Sold on Jennifer. Okay, thank you. That'll be great. So I will let you, Jennifer, actually, if you can unmute, I will let you steer us through the rest of the agenda since you're the, the chair effective today.
Sure, I can do that.
Excellent.
I'm gonna make this up as I go along, you guys. So, looks like we're on cataloging requests. So we're sticking with Erica.
Yes. Okay. So let me get back to my slides here. Congratulations to you, Jennifer. I forgot the fun graphic. All right. Okay. Right now, for the most part, RSA is cataloging, working on cataloging requests from early December. That being said, though, there are less than about 20 requests that are older than that. There's various reasons for that, but to sum it up, we've had illness and holiday absence. So some of these things have slipped through the cracks. And we're trying to make sure that if they're older than early December, that they are being circled back to. But for the most part, everything is early December. If you look at that in terms of business days, if you just count the calendar straight, that's about 40 business days, but that also takes into account Christmas and New Year's. So we're at the end of that 28 to 35 business day turnaround time, and we're trying The team is working so hard to try and reduce that turnaround time. But we are short-staffed, and we are trying to look at additional ways to reduce the number of incoming requests. We're not sure at this point what that looks like, but we do recognize that even though we're working so diligently, that the turnaround time, we would like to have it come down further. So at this point, like I said, most of what we're doing is early December, in the 35 to 40 business day range. I would say, Sarah from Chillicothe,
I
it
was
wouldn't
actually
hurt.
going to say something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, I was
Sarah,
going to say it wouldn't hurt to probably follow up on those,
I-
but Jennifer, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I probably have those, Sarah, because I was actually looking at the request I have. I have a few requests from November 30th, and I know I have about 6 requests from you. So chances are you could always contact the desk, of course, if you want to check on them. But I'm pretty sure I probably have those requests, just so you know. And the plan is to get them done actually in the next couple of days. I have a workshop that's just completed today. So, and always too, if something needs to be pushed up like that, feel free to reach out and I can, or we can push that up. Sorry to interrupt, Erica. I just
No,
saw
that
that.
was-
It's like, oh, I
that
think I
was-
probably have those.
That
I
was
was
the
just
next
looking at
thing I
them.
was, nope,
Okay.
that's good. That was the next thing I was going to say was, please reach out if there's something that needs to be moved up. I know several of you have done a great job doing that. Henderson County, for example. So please reach out. Like I said, we're working as diligently as we can. We're looking forward to having Aaron Roberts join us on February 9th, so we can get a 4th cataloger working on these. So that's where we're at with the standard cataloging requests. Any questions about that? Okay, I will invite you too, if you have ideas about reducing the number of incoming cataloging requests. We have a few ideas internally, but I am always willing to take ideas too, if you have an idea how we can continue to reduce the cataloging request load. It's a fine line because we want to help you, and yet on the other hand, we have to make sure we can try and process things faster. So I'm not sure what that looks like at this point, but as I mentioned, we're talking internally, and there'll probably will be some changes in the next few months. The rush cataloging requests, those are still processed within 2 business days, whether on a brief record or an OCLC record. With those, remember, it works to your advantage if you submit the digital photocopies or the scans, because remember, then you don't have a physical item or paper photocopies going through the delivery. As I mentioned earlier, and this is some of the tidbits to keep in mind, RSA staff under current Rails policy, we are still working remotely at this point. So that means that catalogers are visiting the office once or twice a week. Incoming cataloging materials are being sorted at least twice a week. So that adds some additional delay to it. We don't have a return to the office date. I know Kendall is hopeful that after Omicron dies down, we can start to have some regularity in office work. We'll have to see. It's difficult to plan, but we're just trying to be transparent about what the situation is right now. And like I mentioned, how hard the team is working, but we realize the turnaround time, we'd like to get it reduced and then think about how we can get a fewer volume of incoming requests. Yet still keep a clean database. That is the puzzle that we're in. Let me just look and see here. Any questions at this point? I don't have many specifics. But stay tuned, like I said, in the coming months if we decide to make some additional changes. Okay.
Erica, before we get too far ahead, I just wanted to point out in the chat a little bit
Mhm.
ago, Pam did put in the chat the next online with the CMC, just so everybody can see
good.
that. Yep,
Yeah, thank you.
sure.
Looks like we've got a clever title. Oh, brother,
Yes.
what to do with 024028588.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there is a question from Joanne in the chat that this came in. I don't know, do you want me to read it to you or are you wanting to read?
I've got it.
Okay.
Yep, got it. Okay. A standard cataloging request is a request that comes in and it is not cataloged in any shape or form, and it needs to be put on a record. So most of what you at P can do, that's a backlog cataloging request because typically you're on a record already, whether it's an OCLC record or a brief record. The standard request lets it be processed on a record within the current processing time, which, like I said, is towards the end of the 35-day range, 35 to 40 days, if we exclude holidays and weekends. So think of it as the request comes in, there's nothing. It needs to be attached to something. It's typically the libraries that aren't using OCLC connection to import records into workflows. Lisa, Jennifer, Rhonda, chime in if anything is if anything is haywire that I said. I know it's a bad habit to throw terms around and not define them. So thank you. Please keep asking if a term is mentioned. If the request comes in and it's already on some kind of record, most likely it's going to be a backlog request where it will be revisited later to have its OCLC record either upgraded or a new one made. Yes, Abby, there are workshops coming up late February, early April, and mid-June. So we'll talk about dates for those later on in the meeting. So yeah, hold that thought. Okay, what is our next agenda item, Jennifer?
Are we still in cataloging requests? Are we on to or
Yes.
workflows cataloging, right?
We'll talk about, I'm in the process of working with Kendall to try and get better statistics to show you. But I did want to show you, we keep internally a document. Kendall has been keeping this updated, and so I did want to show you. This is a super detailed view of it. We need a more bird's eye view of it. But notice here, it's giving us statistics about the help desk. And I think this is the one, yeah. We have lots of different, much like Pam's team at the CMC, we have different categories that we track. They all start with these C's. So you can see, for example, for each month, there's numbers associated with each of these. What I'm trying to do is group these so that you don't need to know all of these specific subcategories. You just need to know database maintenance. Here's what we did. Editing existing records. Here's what we did. Originals, same thing. It would output a number for those. You can see that there's quite a bit of information on here. So I'm trying to group them into more usable data pools. So we have the information. It's just a matter of trying to make it in a digestible format. I know for the users group packet coming up, February 10th is the next users group. I'd like to really start including in those reports some statistics of what's going on. The other piece of this is I'd like to try and get numbers out of the old help desk because that's where a good portion of the backlog requests are. So know that we are trying to get more usable numbers for you besides just the super nitty gritty that I realize probably doesn't mean a whole lot with these specific of categories. I know I've asked in the past, but I did want to ask again, just if there's specific stats that you'd like us to try and get. I know we're somewhat limited by the capabilities of the two different help desks, but I'd like to get overall numbers for backlog requests and then just standard requests, remember, which are waiting. They're not on anything. And then start to give those more specific categories, give them groups to make them more meaningful. But other than that, big overall numbers and grouped categories, I'm just not sure if there's anything else you, our membership, would like to see. So if there is something, let us know and we'll see if we can try to find it in the tools that we have. Okay. As part of the plan for the backlog, we really are not in a position to work on the backlog. Just because remember the standard turnaround time is 35 to 40-ish days. So we'd like to try and get the standard processing time down before backlog work begins. But as I mentioned earlier, we do recognize the need to further reduce the number of the incoming cataloging requests in order for that to happen. We have seen a good reduction as we've started the BibLoad workshops where members are starting to use Connection and load them into workflows. We have seen a reduction. It's difficult though, because sometimes libraries change their OCLC status. We'll have that with Illinois Prairie, for example, coming up as Aaron joins us. What was a connection library becomes a non-connection. So it is difficult to see exactly, a few months from now what the numbers are going to look like compared to now. I just wanted to reassure you that everything in the backlog was not in vain though, because it is being saved. And it's a matter of getting the turnaround time down to a point where the team can work on the backlog and not extend the standard processing time too much past 14 business days. The CMC is still going to be an important piece of this puzzle. Remember doing the backlog cataloging requests for encoding level 8 and M records that were submitted before we stopped that practice last January. So that's something too that the CMC still will help us with. You will get emails as your backlog cataloging requests are processed, either from the CMC or RSA. And if you need help, if we need your help sending the item, we'll also reach out to you. I know some of the things have images, and like many requests, I shouldn't say many, like some requests, they may not be complete images or they may be difficult to read. So you may hear from someone about sending the physical item. At this point, the CMC, we're not actually working with them at this point. We're still on their list, but Pam has fortunately been very accommodating as we've been adjusting the timeline. So we do still plan to work with them. Ideally, I'd like it to be this spring. We have a couple new RSA libraries joining us that I'll talk more about later in the meeting. So those have taken priority for February and March. As we talked about earlier with some of the things from November, if there's a backlog request that needs to be revisited sooner than we get to it, please email us. I know there's a lot waiting, but as with the other requests from November, we're happy to move them up if you tell us. I think that's good for this slide. Did anybody have any questions about this? Okay. And we have not forgotten about the timeline for the cataloging request form revisions. This too, some things have thrown a wrench in the plans for late last year for these. I do still have all the feedback. I will say that the most important feedback that we need to try and implement for these is the cataloging request confirmation emails. I know that that generated quite a bit of feedback on the survey, that it's confusing, that there's multiple emails. So that's something that is already being thought about, is how we can change that. And there were some smaller revisions that were suggested that we're going to try and get to later this spring. But if there's other things, especially now that you've been using the forms longer, remember we did the survey back in September, and the forms were just released in July. So if you've been using them longer and have ideas, let us know. The binge box cataloging request form is another hot ticket item besides the confirmation emails. Any questions about that? Okay, and I did add just a summary here of what the feedback was from that survey last September. This one I added in because this just came up yesterday. It's not on the agenda, but we still have a small number of what I call mystery cataloging requests. A cataloging request, you submit it, you get the confirmation email, but for some reason, the cataloging request never reaches the help desk for us to process. We've had, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 of these since the form was implemented last July. Kendall has checked both the help desk and the form, and it's like the two of them are not connecting for some requests for some reason. I would say if you have something that's older than 2 months and it's not on any kind of record and it needs to be cataloged still, I would say it's a good idea to reach out if you have the confirmation email handy. Just because we can't identify a pattern why some of these are making it and some of them are not. And that's why it's important to keep those cataloging request confirmation emails until you hear from us that the request is processed. I have a feeling we'll probably need to work with either the online form or the help desk third-party consultants on this. Maybe they would have some ideas. I know we have a help desk consultant, but I'm not sure that's actually the problem. It could be the online form. But we are trying to figure out what's going on. It's just incredibly frustrating because, as I mentioned, there doesn't seem to be a pattern of these, and it's not happening to very many, which is a good thing, but that does make it difficult though if you're trying to figure out why some are making it and some aren't. Any questions about that? And Kendall, if you're on here, if there's anything else to mention about that.
Yeah, I think I have researched 2. There may be like 1 or 2 more. And what I see is that the request before it came in, the request after it came in, I can see all of those, but that particular request, the 2 that I researched, they never got to our help desk email. So but you have an email for it, right? So, and every time you fill out a form, 2 emails get sent. One goes to you and one goes to the help desk. So it's as Erica said, it's frustrating because you're giving me a number that I know exists, but I can't find it,
Mhm.
that it appeared in our help desk, and there's no record of it on the form saying that it couldn't be delivered. So thankfully, there's not many of them.
Hence the mystery part of it.
Yeah.
We're just
Yes.
not sure, which I know probably sounds like an excuse, and it unfortunately is the way it is. But yes, if you have something older that hasn't been cataloged at all, remember I said that for the most part, the team is working on early December requests. If you have something older, I would say it would be a good idea to follow up just to make sure, because we had one just yesterday, right, Lisa, where it came in, it was early November, and we couldn't even find it in the help desk. So
Yeah, it was November 8th.
yeah.
If you send it in, like, I put it immediately. So we'll try to get it in as soon as we can for you.
Yeah, it's very strange. So if you have anything that is older, I would say reach out if it's not too much trouble for you. Okay. What is next on our agenda, Jennifer?
All right, looks like next we have in workflows cataloging the change me removal extension with Rhonda.
Hi, everyone. We're going to look at the slide for a minute, and then I'm going to take you over to workflows and give you a little demonstration. But we wanted to let you know that the placeholder change me call numbers that we put in for cataloging requests when we catalog them and upload them into workflows, we've changed that time that we give you from 30 days to 60 days to get in there and modify them. So because of the longer processing time currently, as we keep working from home and are short staffed. And the best thing to do in order to check for your change me's is obviously when we email you, we're going to tell you, hey, we put a change me placeholder in for you, and you can go in and edit it. But if you aren't watching your email, you can also check change. Oh, where is it? Share screen. You can also do a search in workflows for all of your change me's by library. And you do that in your call number and item maintenance wizard. And up here, we change to the 3 and we type in change me, the search for. We change our index to call number, and we have to go by library. So I'm going to use Cambridge as my example. You do a search. It brings up all the change me placeholders so that you can go in and modify an item so that you can edit. Also, stop sharing. And if Erica would share her screen again. Sorry,
Yes.
Erica.
Let me, I had flipped to the agenda, but I will go back. Okay, here we go.
If you want to monitor your change me's via a report, you can email the help desk and ask for a weekly report on your change me's, and that'll be emailed to you weekly. Does anyone have any questions? All right, back to you.
Looks like next we have the Pipe Z call number workaround with.
Hi, everybody. So it was a couple weeks ago, someone had called into the help desk with an interesting question about workflows inserting a pipe C that they didn't want into a call number for an item that they had. And so like there's a quirk in workflows where if you're using OCLC and import a record, or if you are creating a call number just in workflows in general, like if it thinks that there is a abbreviation for a month, or I think there might be seasons as well, workflows will sometimes insert a pipe C for you in the call number because it thinks you're trying to create a serial, like add on to a serial record, which sometimes isn't always the case. You might just have an author who, like in an example we'll show later, like the Babysitter Club's author, Marsh. If you have MAR, workflows thinks it means March, which is not what you want to do. So why this is problematic, I'll show you why. So I'm going to go into workflows and share my screen and just kind of show you what this looks like in workflows first, and then show like, okay, what's the big deal about having a pipe C in a call number, even if you don't want it. So in workflows, if you use your call number item maintenance wizard, I have a record here that I could show you what I'm talking about. So with this item, if you notice here, like the author's name is Naomi Novik. And this NOV part right here, it's kind of confusing workflows. And like sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. I asked Erica and like she's unsure what the specific rationale is for workflows and why it will sometimes put in a pipe C and sometimes it won't. But the moral of the story here is that you should always check your call number when you have like a month or a season abbreviation in there, because sometimes workflows will insert a pipe C for you when you don't want one. So this is what it looks like in workflows. And if you go out into the RSA CAT, this is how this can be problematic for patrons. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you can do a search in the RSA CAT using the title control number for a record. And I'm logged in using my account. I can place a hold on this item. Let's give it a minute to find it. Okay, so we have tongues of serpents, and here's that record that we saw in workflows. So if I'm a patron and I want to put a hold on this item, because of the pipe C, I now get this weird screen where I could just place a hold, but there's also a part with volume, and that's the pipe Z part that shows up on the patron end of things. So because of the pipe C, there's that one specific volume of this record. So I mean, that could be confusing to patrons because they don't know why this is here or why it would happen. So also, it's kind of also like weird that you can just place a copy level hold essentially on something that might be beneficial for a patron to be able to put a hold on something system wide. So I don't know, but this is kind of confusing or could be problematic. So in order to prevent this from happening, like there is a workaround for this, and I'll correct this right now if I could show you. So if you have a pipe C that's been inserted by workflows and you don't want it there, you go into the item info tab and place your cursor and like behind the pipe C. So between the Z and then whatever the next letter is, just click in there and then backspace till you get to like the next character in your call number. And then you can put an underscore. So it's like that. So if you put an underscore in like where that pipe C used to be, and then hit save. In your call number, it'll show as an underscore. Out in the RSA CAT, it'll show as just a space. So if you want to have like two spaces in there, you could just put in, two underscores. You want to have like more spacing there. If one space is fine, just the one underscore is good. I won't be able to show you the fix of this in the RSA CAT because it'll take a couple hours for it to get updated on the RSA CAT, but rest assured this will be fixed. And any future patrons that want to put a hold on this won't be confused by this possible volume question that happens when you place a hold on something. If you'd like a record of this, you know, to print out, like, you know, where can you find this in a document? Go to the RSANFP.com. This is actually one of our, it's called the Cataloging Best Practices for RSA Member Libraries document. And it'll show you this workaround. But if you're at the homepage of the library staff support site, you could find this by going to the workflows, documentation, and training link. Click it. Then you're going to want to go to cataloging and then guides and how-tos. And you left out here, it's actually right at the top. But it says cataloging best practices for RSA member libraries. And if you click on this link, a document will open up. And if you go to the contents, kind of scroll down, and there's a spot called call numbers with incorrectly inserted pipe C. If you click that, this little section here details out what that weird glitch is that can happen, and then gives an example of how to fix it. And so that's how you could do it yourself, or if you want, Eric, could you mind sharing the slideshow again?
Yes, let me get back to it.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. So
okay.
like this last session said, if you want a report of all these unwanted problematic pipe Cs, we do have a report that we can run to share those with you. So back on the RSA staff support site, if you submit a report request, sorry, thank you, Erica. I think I jumped the gun. Sure. Moving back to the slideshow. But yeah, you can go to that report request form and then just tell us what kind of report it is. If you mentioned something about wanting to know your pipe Cs, we'll be able to get that for you. And then you can see all the pipe Cs that can be fixed.
It will also have the correct pipe Cs as well. But like Lisa mentioned, it is a problem because if a patron picks it in the online catalog, they pick that little drop-down menu, it's going to be a copy level hold. So it could take longer to fill the hold if it's waiting for that particular copy rather than just picking the first available on the bibliographic record. So it is it is confusing, and it can have the unfortunate effect of the item taking longer to get in the patron's hands. Yeah.
Oh, Rhonda said it does it too with VOL for volume. Sometimes it'll pop in a pipe C for you with that as well.
Watch out for PT for part as well.
It's really weird. I tried to create an example and I couldn't get workflows to insert the pipe C for me. It's really weird on when it decides to do it or not. So just remember, always check your call number after you fill out the item info tab, because you never know what workflows is going to decide to do.
I know it has to do with how the pipe C analytic file is set up in the back end of workflows. So I did add it to our list. We have a monthly meeting with the Cersei Dynex workflows consultant. So I added it to my list to see if maybe she can make sense out of what triggers it and what doesn't. But Lisa's right. It's very inconsistent in how it does it. So yeah. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. What is next for us, Jennifer?
Next, we have Workflows Cataloger account removals with Jennifer.
Hello, thank you. Yes, Erica wanted me to talk a little bit about the Workflows Cataloger accounts and removals. Basically, I guess the request would come more from cataloging managers or anyone who oversees the catalogers. If you've had any type of staff changes, maybe retirements, your catalogers aren't there anymore, we'd appreciate if you could let us know, and that way we can remove their cataloger account. As you can see here on the slide, why? Well, one, it keeps a tidy database, and two, it prevents former staff from using the account at a new library. I know many times, maybe one staff member has moved from one system library, within the system to a different system library. So of course you don't want to use an account from a different library. They are intentionally protected to avoid accidental removals. The only way that a removal can happen is through RSA. And actually, I will show you here in workflows. Let's see here. What's it showing?
We can see it. It shows remove user with your
Okay.
PK
For some reason,
account.
I can't see it that it's sharing, which is weird. So that's why, but you can see workflows. Okay, well, that's
Yes.
good. Because you know what I mean? Usually it gives you the surrounding that that's what I'm sharing. Anyway. Okay, so if you were to try in the circulation and remove user, what would happen here is you would get this pop-up, the user profile is protected, cannot remove. That is intentional, just don't want anyone to accidentally remove an account. So that's why we have them protected. And probably go back to your slideshow, please.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, my screen just completely, I don't know what's going on. Okay. If it's been a while, and you honestly don't know if there's any old cataloger accounts out there, if you just want a list of your library's cataloger accounts, or if you just want to report a staffing change, you would just contact the help desk and you could say, hey, so-and-so is no longer with us. Can we remove the account? At that time, if in that situation you reported a staff change, I would do the removal and then I reply back to you, yes, this has been taken care of. And I'll ask you if you want a master list of accounts. Your master list of accounts, I wrote down here, it's basic. I mean, it gives enough information. It gives for everyone that has a cataloger account, the cataloging access level. It shows your user ID, user last name, first name, when this account was created. And there's also a couple other details on the sheet just about circ accounts, just important information and passwords. We don't include the pins on this sheet. If you decide that, and like I said, this usually be a manager, requesting this, that you would like a pin for someone's workflows account, well, you can ask the individual who, account that it belongs to, what is this pin, or you could request it from us, RSA. So what you would do is just reply back to me, hey, I'd like a master list, and we'd get that for you. And if you then want the pins, that actually comes from Erica. It's kind of a two-step process. The master list is without the pins. And then I think, Erica, do you send something special, pins requested in its subject, or do you say anything special about the pins?
That's a good point. Yeah, when the email is sent with the pin, it's a very vague email. We're trying to do better on our end with security, not putting an account ID and a pin in the same message, much like you'd see with a bank or an online retailer. So we're trying not to put the two in the same message. So there would be just a very vague email sent to you that would not mention PIN or password anywhere on it. I think maybe a couple of you in this meeting have gotten intentionally vague email is what
Yes.
I call it.
Yes, I know there are a couple
Yeah.
of people here that have recently requested some. So yes, if you are just interested, what catalog or accounts you have out there, just contact the help desk. I will try to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. It shouldn't take too long. If there's an immediate need for a removal, I don't know exactly, but just for, I don't know, disgruntled staff, I have no idea. Just if something happened and you needed an immediate removal of account, just mention that in your email and I will of course get to it as soon as I can. Any questions or anything I've forgotten, Erica? I think I've
don't
covered
think
it.
so. Thank you. Yes. I
Thank you.
think that's it.
I'm one of those people who have had one of those vague emails recently, and it all made sense. So
Good.
Good to know. Thank you.
Next is recently created cataloging parameters with Erica.
It hasn't been too busy since our September 23rd database committee meeting. It hasn't been too busy with code creations. I know at previous meetings, these have stretched across several pages for the same code. I did add a bunch of Spanish and French home locations last week. One of the new members, the Beardstown Guard Elementary School, they serve not just an English population, but they also have Spanish, French. There's a lot more foreign languages too that they have, but these were for their sections. So a lot of these Spanish, French ones were created for Beardstown Guard Grade School. And then I think one of these was for Alpha Park, the Juvenile New Easy book. So it's not been too busy, but as usual, if you'd like any of these added to your workflows, home location drop-down menu, if you have a similar collection and it's organized together, you can email the help desk and Rhonda would be glad to put it into your menu for you. Oops. Item category 5s, not too busy since the last meeting, just like with home locations. Remember, we added back in October OCLC exclude, so that is puzzles, kits, games, binge boxes are cataloged on OCLC records. You can assign the OCLC exclude item category 5 code if you don't want the holdings updated for your library when RSA does the monthly OCLC batch load. We also added a couple codes for book awards for Seibert and Schneider. So again, if these are codes, everybody has OCLC exclude, or they should, in their menu. But if you have those book award codes and would be interested in those for your collection, just send an email and we'll be glad to add them. We did not create any new codes since the September meeting for item type, item categories 1, 2, 3, or 4. So just home location and item cat 5. Any questions about codes? Remember, if you have a suggestion for a code, keep it coming to the RSA help desk. Okay, what is next for us?
Next, we have load bibliographic record report removals, also with Erica.
This is one of my favorite issues because it's so easy to do. We have had trouble recently with a few bibload report logs, not just the logs, but the template being removed from workflows. So let me log in here as my Galva cataloger account just to make sure we're on the same page where this is happening. I wish there were a way we could, much like the cataloger accounts, we could configure workflows so you couldn't accidentally remove it. I've asked and I was told it's not possible. So, okay, so if you're in reports and you go to schedule new reports, you might see a sessions page. You can just either uncheck it and hit OK or just hit OK at the bottom. Somehow the remove is getting clicked here at the bottom of the page. I suspect it probably happens more when you're on finished reports and you're trying to remove a report that's already run and maybe you close the screen and it gets hit again. I'm not really sure how it's happening. If someone has removed it accidentally, if you could shed insight, that would be great. But I just know these are getting removed periodically and it puts you in a difficult spot because you're not able to load OCLC records until I recreate the template for you. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows to be careful and not to hit that remove button because it does usually take a couple business days for me to get it set up again. So really there's no need to remove any report in workflows, definitely not a template. And even your finished reports that have run after you load records, you even don't need to remove those because those are removed once they age about a month. There's an automated RSA process that cleans them out to free up space. So the rule of thumb is just avoid the remove button in all situations. That way you're not left high and dry without the ability to load records. Any questions about that? Just make sure here. Okay, what do we have next?
It's like next is the project update for the standardization of new item types with Kendall.
Okay, we'll do that and then we'll take our break. So take it away, Kendall.
That would be me if I can find the button to start my video. There we go. All right. So just wanted to give kind of an update because we'll be talking about this again at users group. We talked about this at November's users group, just real briefly. And we talked about that there is an issue with having lots and lots of new item types, and all those item types are being used differently in libraries, and there is a bit of an issue for new items that are not being changed from a new item type back to a standard item type after well, any amount of time. In some cases, we have items that in 2007, when we migrated from the old system to the new system, that were marked as new items in that migration and are still marked as new items. Now, granted, it's only about 100 items from 2007, but every year past 2007, there are more and more and more items in these new item types. And so there will be a RSA-wide cleanup project coming out soon for just to make it a little easier. Anything that is 2020 or earlier that is marked as a new item, we're going to be sending out lists to everybody, and hopefully we can start getting cleaned up on this. But one of the things, the reason why we were talking about it in the first place and why I went down the rabbit hole of seeing, well, how many of these things are there, was because at users group, there was a lot of discussion about reciprocity and how new item types are messing up reciprocity, and why do we have so many new item types, and is the problem that people are using new item types indiscriminately or differently, or what was the problem, and is there a solution? So we talked about the problem, we identified the problem, and I said, well, now the question is how many people would like to talk about standardizing these things. This seems like a good place to start for a standard. And there was a lot of, it is part of our ongoing strategic plan to start standardizing things. And so then just to kind of give you an update, we did a survey for the group that's looking at the new membership service levels. And one of the questions on there was, are you willing to voluntarily standardize on some things, if RSA was to come up with some places where people could voluntarily standardize? And about 85% of the libraries who responded to that survey, and there were somewhere in the area of 70, 80 libraries who responded, all said, yes, we would be willing to voluntarily standardize things. And so we're like, great, we know where we're going to start. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it again with managers and directors at users group on February 10th and see, okay, can we get some kind of consensus, I guess, on the best path to move forward. I've talked to the other consortia in Illinois to see what they do. Some consortia are like us, and they leave it up totally to the member libraries. Other consortia have very strict rules on how they do it. So that should be an interesting discussion on how people think. But essentially what we want to do, or what seems like would be a good path forward anyway, is to try and say, rather than having 5 different item types for new books, maybe we only need a couple. And here's how they should be used. And instead of having multiple DVD, Blu-ray ones, maybe we only need a couple, and here's how they should be used. And if we can do that, we can start cleaning up some of the reciprocity issues that we have in the system. And also we can start making it a lot easier to either automatically or change things out of being a new item to a regular item, or at least generate reports to send you to tell you to change things from a new item to a not new item with some regularity, rather than whatever or not at all changing things. So that's where we're at. We are not anywhere close to the place where we're going to have a vote to say, hey, everybody, you need to go and look at your database and change all of this. We're not anywhere close to that. But what we do want to do is start the conversation, because it will take a couple of meetings at the users group. It'll take this committee talking through some things a little bit more in detail for specific item usage, to get us to a point where we can provide a good solution that then people could vote on, and then voluntarily or not voluntarily, depending on how users group decides, try and make a move to that. So just wanted to give you an update on that, because it will be that this is our major discussion topic at this particular users group. And this is the group of people who are going to be seeing the emails that say, here's a list of all of your new item types that are older than 2021. And if you have lots of those, and you can tell us, hey, everything on here that's a new book, just make it a book, or everything on here on this list, make it this, and this list, make it this, then we can do some bulk moves. But for the most part, it's just going to, I think most libraries don't have that many. It's just ones or twos that got missed. It could be that you were running reports and something was checked out or in transit, so you couldn't change it at the time, and you just never got back around to it. So for most libraries, it's not a huge list.
And don't worry, we will talk about the considerations for on orders as this project moves further along. I know that's one thing. I told Kendall, we've got to think about the on orders in terms of newness, because I know that's a separate can of worms that we'll need to talk about before this actually gets up and moving. But like Kendall said, this is not ready to get up and moving at this point. It's still being talked about, right?
Correct. There will, like, the cleanup project will happen, but that is separate from the trying to come up with a standard.
Does anyone have any questions for Kendall?
I'm enjoying the little magic wand mouse pointer.
It's supposed to be a lollipop, but it does.
Oh, is that
kind
what
of
that is?
Yeah, I think so. Supposed to be, at least.
All right.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you,
Kendall.
everybody.
What is next for us, Jennifer?
All right, looks like it's time for a 5-minute break. I think Erica is going to start a timer for us.
Yes. I will see you in 5 minutes. So at 2:46. No, 2:44. I can't do math. 2:44.
Do you want me to see if I can pause the recording? Because I see the little icon for it.
Sure, if you'd like to. Excellent.
There you go.
What do we have next, Jennifer?
Looks like next is some OCLC cataloging with Erica.
There's
No,
just a
when-
bunch of quick tidbits in this section. I didn't mean to cut you off. There's just a bunch of quick tidbits. Remember that there is an OCLC Connection Client 3.0. It was released last August. We talked about it in September. How you use the connection client, it stays the same. The functionality they put in it doesn't affect how RSA uses it. The constant data should transfer, but it's always a good idea before you do an update or you install client 3.0 fresh that you make a backup of your 949 tag templates. And remember, if you use the OCLC connection browser, through your internet browser, if you go to connection.oclc.org and you type in your password and your PIN, that interface does not need updating. It's just the connection client on your desktop. OCLC has not announced an end of life date for 3.0. Or excuse me, 2.63. They did mention last fall that they're going to turn off 2.63 sometime this year, 2022, and they would provide notice. I just wanted to mention it again because it never hurts to upgrade and get ahead of the get ahead of the curve if we're not given too much advance notice, like OCLC said. I'm keeping an eye on the OCLC cataloging listserv, and if they announce a specific end of life date for the 2.63, I will share that on the RSA listserv. And remember, if you need help with the download or you can't remember your authorization or password, OCLC support would be the best one to help you. I did want to show you, it should be pretty easy to see your version number. Let me see here. If you double click the connection client, it may take a minute or so to open. I know mine has been a little bit pokey lately, but there should be a menu towards the top of the screen that tells you the version number if you're not sure what you're running. While that spins, okay, good. Usually you just have to say that and then it moves faster. If you go up here to the help menu in connection client and go to about OCLC connection client, notice up here at the top, it tells you the version number, so 3.0. So that's an easy way to check. Like I said, not required to upgrade now, just a reminder that at some point this year, they are going to turn off the old version. Any questions about that? Okay. The next thing in this section has to do with the aliens Library of Congress subject heading. Last November, Library of Congress approved changing aliens and illegal aliens to non-citizens and illegal immigration. They did that to try and be more sensitive and inclusive of this part of our society rather than using negative terms. OCLC updated the headings on almost 41,000 records in WorldCat, and they're monitoring new ones. We still have aliens and illegal aliens on existing records in our database, but those will be taken care of when RSA works with Marchive. Any new records that are brought into the database, though, it sounds like they should have the new non-citizens or illegal immigration headings because OCLC is systematically crawling the records. So I just wanted to mention that because you could see a change and you should see a change when you're looking at OCLC records for those headings. Any questions about that? Another change that OCLC made to be more inclusive and sensitive to terminology, just like aliens, but this one involves the term master record. We probably need to think of a different term even for our cataloger lists. I was thinking about that as Jennifer here at RSA was talking about our what we call the master list of accounts. But OCLC has decided to move away from the term master due to the slavery connotations it has, and move just to using WorldCat bibliographic record. When they're talking about the record in OCLC that is the version everyone uses and everyone wants to edit to make sure it's the best possible record. So OCLC has updated their documentation and also the validation feature so that it doesn't use master anymore. We'll follow suit and we'll use WorldCat bibliographic record. I know that master record is a term that comes out easily. It's just been in use for so long, but we will do our best to do our part and mention the WorldCat bibliographic record as the super version of the record. And then I'll think about a change, what we call the master list. Maybe it would just be a list of cataloger accounts. Any questions about that? This next topic, there was a listserv post earlier this week. I shared because we had gotten a couple questions from members. I'm thinking each of your libraries in this meeting, since you belong to OCLC, you likely got an email announcing that OCLC is doing a free holdings update through June. I'm not really sure what this means for the monthly process that we run that's called OCLC Holdings Manager. So we're going to have a meeting next week with the other Illinois shared catalogs to try and figure out if we do this update, how it's going to work with or work against the existing process. So we're not really sure at this point how it goes with OHM. We're hoping to have more information by users group because the meeting with the other Illinois shared catalog systems is next week. I did want to ask if this update does not conflict with OHM, if you think your library would be interested. I know that may be an unfair question because it may be a decision that someone above you makes. And we will keep the listserv informed if RSA's going to take advantage of it. We're just not sure if it's something that could be coordinated on a system-wide level with all RSA members, or if it's something that we would suggest that you work with OCLC individually if you're interested. We're just not sure at this point. OCLC makes it sound like it's really easy to update your holdings, which I hope that's true. I just know with OHM, there's been a lot of details we've had to consider and make sure it's working correctly. So to be continued on that, but there will be more of this during the users group. And then our last topic in the OCLC cataloging section, I realize this is short notice, it crept up on me, but tomorrow there's an OCLC cataloging community meeting that a couple of us here at RSA will attend. It thankfully is virtually. I did put the link here. Essentially what we're going to do is listen in on this, and if there's any relevant takeaways for this group, we'll be sure to talk about them with you at the next database committee meeting. I can also put the link in the text chat. Let me just make sure it does in fact work. Yeah, I'll put the link in here in case you would want to attend that tomorrow. Okay, Illinois Veterans Home Quincy would be interested. Okay, that's good to know for that free OCLC holdings update. Ideally, if that OCLC holdings update works the way that I would think it would, that it would catch some holdings that OHM doesn't update that are older or were manually updated. But again, I'm just not sure what that OCLC update does that OHM doesn't. Yeah, so stay tuned. If there's anything from this cataloging community meeting tomorrow, we'll let you know. But it looks like the topics include diversity, equity, inclusion, and then they'll do a metadata services update, which basically means a cataloging update, both their programs used for cataloging and then also quality control measures. And then it looks like there'll be more discussion of the aliens to non-citizens subject heading switch. It looks like too, they are recording it. So even if, oops, you can't attend, if you register at that link, it will send you the recording. Certainly not required, just optional.
Eric, I just want to make sure you saw a comment from Jennifer at Peoria, interested in the updated holdings as well.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'm hoping if we find this is doable with the OCLC OHM process, that there'll be some kind of survey or something that we can formally ask. But this is helpful feedback at this point because I just am not sure where we're going with this. She spoke to Randall yesterday. Okay, good. So that means you have official approval as well. Yeah. So stay tuned if this is something we're going to coordinate for you, or if it's something you want done, and we'll ask you to work separately with OCLC on it. We should know by users group. Okay, what is next on the agenda?
Next up is upcoming cataloging events with Erica.
Okay, we do have several basic workflows cataloging workshops scheduled on Zoom, February through June. I put the dates here. All of them are on L2. They're still 3 days, 2 to 2.5 hours each day. There'll be listserv posts closer to these, just like you've seen with January. And then recently, Lisa put out the invitation for February's. Oops, I'm going backwards. Okay, I'm going to stay on this screen for a little bit. These are the BibLoad workshops Abby at Brimfield asked about earlier. I have the dates and the time secured. They're not on L2 yet. So stay tuned. I do plan to get them on L2, but here's the dates and the times. We're offering them every other month because in the fall, 2 of the 3 workshops I taught did not meet the minimum requirement of at least 3 staff members from 2 different libraries. So we're going to cut back the frequency to every other month and see how we do with that. Just because we want to make sure we're doing this for a group of libraries, not just a single library or a couple libraries. So stay tuned for the listserv when those are posted on L2, but they will be offered for full online libraries. You're welcome. Oops, keep going backwards. We do plan to do RSA cataloging office hours in Zoom. I know these have gotten some good feedback. So those will be quarterly. So March, June, September, December. We don't have dates yet, but those will be the months. Watch the listserv because remember that's when we share not just the date, but the link, the Zoom link. And remember, you don't have to register for these. They're just very informal. You just drop in, ask your question. If there's other libraries there, you can chat about cataloging or other library related topics, and then you can leave when you're ready. So we do still plan to do these. We'll do them on a quarterly basis. And then as Pam mentioned during the CMC update at the beginning of this meeting, there's 3 upcoming CMC webinars about the 020, well, not 020, the OXX fields, I should say, and the notes fields, and then oral history and book repair. So there's some good topics coming up. Those are on L2, and they're 10 to 11 a.m. on Thursdays. Okay, I think. Yeah, I think we're ready for our next agenda item.
All right, next up, it's future of the RSA Technical Services Networking Group.
Okay, I did want to ask, I hadn't gotten any emails, so I just wanted to do one last call if anybody wanted to volunteer to chair or co-chair this group. Essentially, you would pick meeting dates and times, and you would come up with a list of topics and get input from members about what they want to talk about. And then I would help you schedule the event in Zoom. We can use the RSA Zoom account. I hadn't gotten any volunteers, but like I said, I wanted to ask just this one last time to see if anybody wanted to do this. If this group continues to meet, it really does need to be member driven, just because us here at RSA, we have a different set of issues than what you're dealing with in a traditional library setting. So either way is okay with us. If you don't want to do the group, we just, we won't do it. But if somebody does want to do the group and they want to be the lead for it, then I'm happy to help facilitate the meetings. Do you want to table the group for now? I'm not really seeing much response. Okay, well, we'll plan on this group for now, just not meeting. Remember, we had that one meeting, it was about a year ago. And I know that everyone who attended thought it was really helpful, but it's okay. Now's not the time for it. So like I said, it's okay with us either way. I just wanted to make sure we weren't throwing it by the wayside without giving it another chance. So, okay, well, if it changes at some point and somebody wants to do the technical services networking group, we can certainly revisit it at that point. Okay.
Now we can move to fun stuff and celebrate. So starting with welcoming Erin Roberts.
Yes, I know Erin just had to leave a little bit ago, but Erin is going to be our newest cataloging and database coordinator. This is a recently, I'll say, upgraded position at the same level as Lisa, Jennifer, and Rhonda, teaching workshops, doing good OCLC cataloging, doing various cleanup. So Erin is the cataloger at Illinois Prairie, and she's been there about 20 years. So we're excited that she's going to bring her cataloging knowledge to RSA and help us hit the ground running with all of our cataloging requests coming in. So she will join us on February 9th. Hopefully at users group on the 10th, we can have Erin join us and tell us a little bit more about herself, but we're excited to have her. We had a good group of candidates, so it was a good application process. As I mentioned earlier, we do have some new and upgrading RSA members that have made us readjust some cataloging priorities. So we have the Beardstown Guard. It might actually be elementary school, but the elementary school there in Beardstown, they'll have the workflows code BB2. They're a new branch of an existing member. So Beardstown High School is an existing RSA member. They received a Rails LSAP automation grant to join RSA, and they began cataloging just last week. So they are ready to go. They have a collection size in the elementary school of about 16,000, which is quite large for an elementary school. So they're hoping they can get done by the next school year. They have a couple of helpers, so we'll see how they do. Farmer City Public Library, this one, it's an existing RSA member, but it's a union list. So that means that they catalog their items in workflows, but they don't do checkouts or holds in workflows. They use a separate system or even catalog cards to do that. Farmer City has a code set up, FC. They too are an LSAP grant recipient, and our plan is to get started with them in March. Our next one we'll get started with is New Windsor Public Library. This is a new RSA member. I think it's in the northern part of our service area. I need to look at a map again where exactly it is, but New Windsor is the town. They too received the Rails LSAP automation grant. They'll get started cataloging in February. They'll go earlier than Farmer City because their LSAP grant and their RSA membership was approved before Farmer City. So we're trying to do them in order, especially when we have them stacked up like this when there's more than one. And then we did have a couple service anniversaries on staff. As of October, Rhonda Bierman's been with us 9 years. And then as of this past December, Jennifer Schote has been with us 2 years. So congratulations. And if you celebrated your work anniversary since we last met in September, you're welcome to share it in the chat so we can celebrate you too. I'll give it a minute and see if anybody types in. I'm not seeing service anniversaries. Okay. I think I'll switch this one to you, Jennifer. I think we're ready to convene the meeting. Adjourn the meeting. I always confuse the two. So I will let you, Jennifer, go ahead and tie a bow on this.
All right, sounds like if we have any in-between meetings, they'll be scheduled as necessary. Our next full meeting is May 20th in the morning. So unless you need anything else, I think we can adjourn and be done.
It is here on L2 too. That one is
Okay.
on there. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for volunteering. Looking forward to having fresh blood be our chair. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Happy to do it.
everyone.